Hey guys, what's up? This is Levi here with the Creative Cow, and I am coming to you guys today with a very quick tip of how to use Adobe Dynamic Linking to enhance or add visual effects to your Adobe Premiere Timeline clips. Adobe Premiere Pro is an excellent tool for editing your videos. It's got color correction, it's got the ability to do titling, it's got some sound controls in it as well. All in all, it is a excellent tool set for, essentially editing any type of project from a small short film to a commercial to a feature length project. In fact, Adobe Premiere Pro is used in a lot of feature length films and big scale productions for platforms such as Netflix and major motion Hollywood picture studios. That being said, Adobe Premiere is going to have its limitations, some of which have to do with adding visual effects to your shots. And so that's what we're going to be doing today. We're going to figure out a very quick way to link an After Effects project with your Adobe Premiere Pro timeline so that you don't have to export your footage, import it into After Effects, do all of your work, and then export from that and then re-import into After Effects. Things can get messy pretty quick. So here I have a timeline of a trailer for an upcoming film called Avatar: Last of the Airbenders. It is a fan film put together by a studio called J&J Studios, and they are a YouTube channel. They are a small production house, and they are doing a lot of really interesting things. Most recently, a fan film for the Avatar world. The last Airbender series that we used to see on Nickelodeon, and they are in the process of wrapping off the visual effects and post production for their upcoming film. And I've been very humbled and have had the great opportunity of working together with the post production team to round off some of those shots. And so here's the trailer. If you guys have not had a chance to check out this project, I definitely recommend you do so. It's J&J Studios on YouTube. I will be posting the link in the video description. I've highlighted a clip here in this kind of cyan green color, and it's a clip that doesn't have any visual effects applied to it. And this would be an example of you working on a shot or working on a edit in Premiere, and you've come across a clip that just needs some extra attention, needs some high-end visual effects. And so once you've identified that clip on your timeline, I'm going to kind of just zoom in here. This is our clip. If you want to essentially link this into an After Effects project and do some higher end visual effects, what you'll do is you'll find your clip and right click on it, and then select this option here that says replace with an After Effects composition. So I'm going to go ahead and select that. And we are inside Adobe Premiere Pro 2022. And so you'll need to have the corresponding version of Adobe After Effects installed, in this case, After Effects 2022, which I've already have. So I'm going to go ahead and select OK here. It's going to ask us, though, right off the bat, when you guys do this, unless you have an After Effects project already open, it is going to ask that you go ahead and create or save this After Effects project as a new project. And what happens here essentially is once you guys have opened up After Effects, you've right clicked on your clip in your Premiere timeline and you've selected replace with After Effects composition, it's going to create a new composition with inside of Adobe After Effects here that has all of the same frame rates and scale and resolution of our clip, as well as the length of our clip. And so this timeline here in After Effects represents the clip inside of our Premiere timeline. And what's really neat is it uses this new, well, it's not new, but it's a technology called dynamic linking, and it's essentially a network connection between the two bits of software. And so essentially here, if I were just to real quick kind of give you guys a real quick breakdown, if I were to add an exposure effect to this shot and just bump up the exposure and then hop back over into Premiere, what you'll see is that effect has now been brought over into our Premiere timeline. And depending on the complexity of the work that you're doing in After Effects, it will either play smoothly or it's going to skip around. Let's just go ahead and do the effects that we wanted to do here because I want to show you guys just how really neat this is. And so to get started, just so you guys know, this is going to be a shot where he is doing a bunch of fire punches and fire kicks. And I've created a product that you guys might want to check out. This isn't meant to plug my product, but is perfect for this use case. I'm going to just go ahead and locate to where I have it installed. It's called Stock 3D Fireblast. And Stock 3D is a tool set that I made that allows you to use stock footage, but in a three-dimensional manner, and it has all of the effects kind of pre-packed in. So when you import that Stock 3D Fireblast product here, I just have this single comp. I'll drop it down over top of our footage. And I've already made tutorials kind of showing what this process looks like, so I'm not going to get too heavy into the process. I am, however, just going to go ahead and go forward in time until that first punch happens, which is about right here. I will then line up my footage and pick the orientation I like. And this is what I mean by being able to rotate it, right? We can rotate this using an orientation control, but I'll rotate it until it has the angle and orientation in which I like. I'll then just kind of scooch it forward in the timeline to say about right here. And I'm just going to move this over top of our actor's fist. And with the layer selected, I'm going to hit the P key for the position, and then holding down Shift, I'll also hit the S key to bring up our scale transform options. And I'm going to set a keyframe for both, and then I'm just going to go page up, and this is going to move us back in time, a frame at a time. I'm just going to make sure that this essentially sticks and stays to our actor's fist, and then I'm just going to go down a bunch of keyframes until my smoke starts to turn purple. I'll scale it up, and then I'll just move it off frame. And so if I just real quick do a cache preview here, you guys will kind of see what that looks like. We've got a nice Fireblast that has the correct orientation, and because we scaled it up and moved it kind of off to the side of the shot, it looks like it's flying past the camera, or at least flying in the direction in which he threw that punch. I'm gonna go ahead and just start knocking out the rest. I'll go to this next frame, this next punch I should say, and I'm just going to go ahead and click the little eyeball and make that first instance not visible. I'm going to drop down the next one and just repeat that process. And I'm just going to keep doing this here for you guys. Again, I don't really want to make this into a tutorial about the product, but I do want to definitely add these effects to this shot. And so I'm just going to repeat that process here. P Shift S, position and scale. I'll go backwards by hitting the page up key and just make sure that it stays with the fist of our actor. And then I'm just going to scrub forward in time until the smoke turns purple again. And then I'll scale it up real large and kind of center it up in our frame, and we'll see what that looks like over the course of the shot. I think I just need to just move it up and over a bit. All right, that looks real nice. I'll do a cache preview of this now. Just checking my work, so to speak. All right. What I need to do here real quick, actually, nope, that looks good. All right. I am going to just go ahead and go to edit, and I'm going to select purge, and I'm going to purge all of my memory and disk cache because I do have 161 gigabytes worth of image data here, which is kind of slowing things up a bit. I think I'll also work in half resolution. But what we're doing, guys, is we're just going through here and we're adding in the effects that we want to bring over into our Premiere timeline. And so it should only take a few more moments. I'm not going to, again, get into the crazy details and caveats and features that this product has. I just want to use it kind of as an example to show you that we can do something this high quality with inside of an After Effects comp that's being brought over using dynamic linking from a Premiere timeline. It's real neat that we can do this. This is not a new thing, but it might be new to you guys. And so I just want to show you guys what this looks like and how you would do it. So I'm going to drop down the essential properties again. I'll shut off our wizard tool. I'm going to choose Fireblast 4 now, which is kind of like a kick Fireblast. You guys can see it's got that upward trajectory. I'm going to move it until right before it starts traveling forwards, and then I'm just going to orientate it not to 90, but right before 90. I'll scale it up, position it, and then holding down Shift and hitting P, that'll bring up our position alongside our scale. And I'll just go up a frame at a time using the page up tool, or I should say key on our keyboard here. And I'm just going to, what I might do is actually just rotate it like this. And I'll scale this up real big and just check to see what that looks like. I might not even need to move it out of frame. I don't think I'll need to. Let's check that out. That looks real nice. And we'll do some motion blur on that there in a little bit. I might just need to move it off frame just a tad. Yeah, and it's rendering much faster now that I emptied that disk cache. All right, that looks real awesome. All right, and the last one is, I believe, just going to be this outside to inside kick here. And so I think from about this frame here is where we'll have it kind of start moving across the shot. I'll just turn off our preview mode. I already know I want to use Fireblast number 3, and I'm just going to scooch it forward in our timeline, and I'm going to rotate it now. And I'm also going to rotate it so it's got that upward trajectory. I'll position it right here and hit the S key to do a scale. So we'll scale this up, and holding down Shift, I'll also select the P key to bring up our position because we already had scale there. And I'm just going to go up kind of a frame at a time. There we are. And I'll just kind of move forward and scale this up nice and large, and sort of just move it off to the side of our frame. And so we've got this nice kick. What I think I might do is also holding down Shift, choose the R for rotation, and I'm just going to rotate it as well. So now it's got some rotational control. See what that looks like here. When I turn motion blur on later, I think it's going to kind of cover over some of the oddness about it. I just think for this frame, we just need to not have it turn as much. And I think we're golden here. All right, and I think I'll just go to this first frame. I'll scale it down a tad so that it scales up as it goes through our animation, and it's going to cross right past the front of our camera there. All right, so that should be the final shot. Yep, he just turns around. He doesn't get that last kick in for this particular scene. So very quickly, you guys see that we use Stock 3D here to use three-dimensionally rotatable stock footage here. I'll turn on all of these layers, and let's just do a quick cache preview to see what this looks like. All right, looking very nice. All right, so the next thing that we just need to do, I want to turn all of these effects on, right? So like if I go to this frame right here, if I just go to our very first drop down here and I go into our essential properties, if I turn the preview mode off, all of these copies will essentially be referencing one effects controller, and we can pull the values in case we screw something up, but we can also push the value. So in this case, I just essentially told all of these comps to reference the value. Now the new value is to have that preview mode turned off. Saves us a little bit of time. We don't have to go through each one, but now all of our effects get automatically applied. As you guys can see, we've got the glow and the heat distortion and all of that fun jazz. It takes a little bit longer to render out our image preview, but essentially here we are. It's going through the process of chomping through all of that. Again, guys, we are in a half-res workspace, so it's not going to look as high quality as it could. That's quite all right. Just going to give this a couple of seconds here to go through its process. And this is essentially what you would be doing if you guys wanted to do visual effects on a clip that was already in your timeline. So the finicky part about not using dynamic linking is, you would essentially have to isolate the in and out point of your clip and either put it into its own export sequence, or you would need to set an in and out point for your sequence to be the start and end point in your timeline and export out that video clip. and then bring that into Adobe After Effects, create a new composition, apply all of your effects, export it again from After Effects, and then re-import it into Premiere, only to then get re-exported. And the problem with exporting and re-importing so many times is every time you export a video clip, it's going to lose a little bit of its resolution, which is definitely not fun when you guys are, trying to create a high quality end product. So go back to full res here just so you guys can kind of see what this looks like in full resolution real quick. It's taking a moment to load. There we go. You guys can see it looks very nice. These are all 4K pre-comped assets. I'm just going to go ahead and toggle on some of the quality controls, and then I'm also going to just turn on the motion blur for each of these layers as well, so that they've got a little bit of motion blur as they move through our scenes, just to kind of help sell the effect a little bit better. And I think we're just about finished here. We've got a really nice comp that we've put these Fireblast assets into. And again, it's just a half res preview here, but I'm really liking the way that this is looking. Now, there are a lot more controls with this product. Again, I've made tutorials that kind of go through that process, so I'm not going to take the time and do that and bore you guys. But if you guys were interested, I will point you to those references here a little bit later. Now, that being said, now that we're done inside of our Premiere timeline, if you remember when we applied that exposure effect, anything we do in this comp essentially is going to be pulled over into our Adobe Premiere timeline. And it's this now pink layer. It was green, but when you guys hit replace with After Effects composition, it'll be highlighted in this kind of this pink color. And we got to give it a minute because it's essentially got to talk through that network connection with After Effects and apply all of those effects and then pull that data back over. In fact, I just might move forward a bit in our timeline to see if it can handle pulling that data across. Now, the reason why it's probably not updating very quickly right now is because, as I said, we've got the 4 different instances of stock 3D Fireblast. Each of those compositions has got over 129, I believe, different effects being applied on the back end. There's, 30 or so compositions with, dozens of layers. Each layer has got a bunch of different compositions applied to them. And so this isn't one of those things where it's going to pull over very quickly. And so it makes it kind of unusable at this point where you guys can't watch this through and see the effects. You kind of just got to click and wait. And so to get around that, once you guys are done with your effects, rather than leaving it on the timeline like this, which would just increase the length of time it would take to export from your Premiere timeline, we're going to right click on this clip and choose Render and Replace. So what this is going to do is use the After Effects render engine, and it's going to essentially create a new video clip, and we will essentially set that new clip next to the original media. In this case, this clip here that we're using. And you guys can also just choose the option directly underneath it and choose a destination for that video clip. But we are just going to be using this individual clip. I chose in the last time I did this to use QuickTime as my export. And I just went ahead and did an Apple ProRes 4444 option. That's going to give us, high dynamic range in terms of our color data. And I'm just going to go ahead and select OK. And so what this will do is analyze the project. It's then going to essentially get the export ready. And in the background, it's going to use After Effects and its render engine to essentially export that video from After Effects into a MOV. As you see, it's just started there. It's transcoding the media. And once this is completed, it's going to essentially replace this original clip in our timeline with the one that has all of the effects. And so that's a really neat thing. We'll be able to then play that back in real time without any of the glitching around or having to wait for the communication between the two softwares and all the effects from After Effects to be applied before then pulling that data over. So while this is doing that, because that's going to take a few minutes, I'm going to just real quick hop over into my internet browser here. And what we've got here, I just went ahead and pulled up stock3d.net. This is my website. If you guys were potentially interested in checking out Stock 3D and kind of getting a feel for what it is 3D stock footage, right? And so what I've done is I've created essentially a launch product here, as you guys can see in this demo video. And our very first one is the Fireblast product. And I plan to make a lot of these visual effects stock footage collections, but if you guys were interested in creating effects in the Fireblast realm of things here, then this is definitely going to be a great product for you. Right now it's half off, it's $24.97. And what you get essentially is there's 4 different Fireblast simulations. You guys saw me with that drop down picking which one I wanted to use. It's built for Adobe After Effects. So any of the Creative Cloud uh, editions of After Effects will work. We do have a motion graphics template that's going to get launched here soon. So if you guys do buy the product, you'll get all of the future updates and feature updates that come out in the future. Right now, there are some limitations with motion graphic templates, and so the better way to do it is essentially to do the dynamic linking process that I showed you. All of our clips are rendered in 4K at 50 frames per second. They're pre-matted and pre-multiplied, so they're very large in size. They've got a lot of great resolution, and they have a high frame rate, which allows you to slow them down and create slow motion effects. You guys saw that wizard tool that was built into the main After Effects comp, but that essentially allows you to use a wizard tutorial guide that kind of walks you through step by step. You can toggle it on and off like I showed you. You get that new rotational control to rotate the perspective of your Fireblast. And so in this initial product, you have 180 degrees worth of rotational control. I felt the majority of the time you're probably going to want to have that Fireblast coming toward the camera or just off the camera or just moving left to right. And so you have the orientational slider that lets you rotate it. We have the ability to toggle the individual layers on and off independently. So our Fireblasts are made up of a couple different things. If I just pop back over into After Effects, you'll see our sparks, you're going to see our exploding flames, and then the trail. And that's essentially, those are all rendered onto separate layers and pre-built or rebuilt back into the After Effects project. So there's a toggle switch where you can toggle those all on and off independently. So say, for instance, you don't want sparks in your Fireblast, you can literally, with the click of a button, just turn the sparks off. Real easy. You don't have to go and mess with the opacity or, hit a toggle switch to, essentially make that layer non-visible. And it works essentially across any of the rotational controls. So once you find your rotation you want, if you turn the sparks off, it's off no matter what angle you then choose to change it to if you decide to change your orientation. There's over 30 pre-built compositing controls that are pre-built into this product as well. So you guys can adjust the fire color, the saturation, contrast, the blur. You have controls over the things like glow, both inner and outer glow. You've got heat distortion settings. There's a lot more even packed into it. Again, there's tutorials out there I've created that goes deeper into that, so I don't want to get too deep into it. You also get a custom After Effects effect file. That's the actual AE effect that you can install in your presets and plugins folders. You actually won't need it to make this work, but I've included it just in case you guys wanted to install it. The After Effects projects are also obviously included. You've got CC 15 all the way up through the most recent version of After Effects, as well as a 4K version that has got the 4K comps instead of the just 1920 by 1080 ones. And so you do get the After Effects projects. As I mentioned earlier, there's an Adobe Premiere Pro motion graphics template that's going to be coming soon. Adobe really needs to do a little bit more work in terms of how its motion graphics template works with something of this nature. You don't really have the ability to control all of the individual settings from Premiere, such as the color and the blur and the glow and all that kind of stuff. Really, all you get is the position, the scale, and being able to pick between the different types of orientation control that you guys want. But that's kind of the limitations that you're left with. And like I said, for the time being, it's going to be better just to use dynamic linking. As I said, this is compatible with CC 15 and up, and you also get a training tutorial included with the product that gives you a full in-depth overview, much greater detail than what I went over in here. Again, this is not about the product. I don't intend for this to be a tutorial that shows you guys how to use the product. I just wanted to, it was an opportunity to show how you can use dynamic linking to create a effect in your Adobe Premiere Timeline. And in this case, you guys can see here, it's been rendered and replaced. And so it plays in nice normal speed. Now, after you guys have rendered and replaced, Let's talk about the hypothetical situation where there is just something wrong with the effect and you want to go in and change it. Say you wanted to change the fire color here in this respect. All you have to do is right click on it and choose Restore Unrendered. And what that's going to do is it's going to turn our layer back pink, and it's going to allow us inside of our After Effects comp now to then go and play around with this effect even more. So say for instance, under the fire and smoke, I went to fire controls and I adjusted the fire color, and we just pushed that new value to all of the other compositions. It's now got green fire. If I go back over into our Premiere timeline, it should then turn green here after a few moments. And again, it's going to be much slower, but that's just kind of the caveats of it. It is having to render and calculate all of those changes. But once that's done and this turns green, we can right click on it and hit render and replace once more. And we can re-render this as a new video clip that has that change made to it. And you guys can essentially switch back and forth between the unrendered version, which is linked to an After Effects comp, and there it goes. It's made its change, and the rendered and replaced video clip, which will serve as the final pre-rendered clip in your timeline. And the reason you want to do that, as I mentioned before, is when we go to export this project, export the timeline here into its final format, we haven't gone and essentially rendered out, brought into After Effects, did the effects, rendered it out of there, brought it back into Premiere, and then re-rendered it. By that time, you've rendered that one clip three separate occasions. And as I mentioned, every time you do that, you lose quality. And so this allows you guys just to work with the original clip and export it only once, or in this case, twice, I guess, because you would do a render and replace. But it minimizes the amount of times that you render, and it allows you to bring more high fidelity effects and motion graphics and, just really cool things that you can only take advantage of in the After Effects program and not so much in the Adobe Premiere side of things. And so that's it pretty much, guys. This was just a brief tutorial that shows you guys how to use Adobe Dynamic Linking. Just in real quick, one brief overview. You right click on your clip, you replace it with an After Effects comp. That opens After Effects. You'll save this project if you don't already have a project open, and then you guys will do your effects. And as you do that, they will show up kind of live, so to speak, depending on how crazy the effects you're doing are inside of your Adobe Premiere timeline. Once you're done, you just right click and choose render and replace, and that will pre-render out and create a new version of your clip and replace that in place of the old one in your timeline. So you don't have to keep exporting and importing and then deleting the old clip and then moving this one into place. And then you guys just export. Real easy. And one other thing, obviously, is if you hit Restore Unrendered after you've done a render and replace, you guys can relink the After Effects project and make additional changes should you find it necessary. Pretty easy, guys, right? No more having to export just to hop back into other programs. A lot of you probably already know about Adobe Dynamic Linking. It isn't new. It's been around for a few years now. But I just wanted to hop in here and give you guys a brief overview for those who don't know about this. I constantly run into people who, are inviting my help in an edit. And when I show them this, they are blown away. They don't realize that you can do this. And so I'm sure there's plenty of you out there that didn't know about this. That all being said, I'm going to go ahead and conclude this video, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope that you guys learned something. If you guys have ideas or suggestions for future tutorials that I can do in with After Effects, feel free to reach out in the comment section and make those requests. I do read all of the comments and I take them very seriously. Also, you can check me out. I've got a YouTube account and a Facebook page called Food Fight VFX. Again, J&J Studios, this new Avatar fan film. If you guys are a fan of the Avatar anime series that came out on Nickelodeon when I was a kid and probably when all of you were children, definitely want to go to J&J Studios YouTube page and watch this trailer and get prepared to have your mind blown when the film finally launches. I will post links to my accounts. I'll also post links to the J&J Studios account. And one last time, I guess it doesn't hurt to mention, if you guys are interested or want to check out Stock 3D and what it's all about, I will post a link in the description as well, stock3d.net. Right now, for the next 7 days, today is December 8th of 2021. I believe the next 7 days is the time frame in which you guys can get this product half price. After that, it goes back up to its original and final price of $49.95. It's kind of just an introductory half off thing that I'm doing to get the word out and to incentivize people to check it out with a smaller risk. Anywho, guys, I appreciate all of your time. This is Levi here with the CreativeCow.net, and we are creating some video tutorials. Expect some more. One last thing I should mention is if you guys haven't subscribed to Creative Cow's YouTube page, definitely do so because I am doing a live series every Wednesday at about 8 a.m. in the morning. We go live and I tackle some of the most difficult visual effects I can kind of come across. We do it live and we interact with you guys, let you guys ask questions, and you guys can kind of stumble along with me as I try to create some effects from scratch. That all being said, thank you once more for tuning in, and I'll catch you guys next time.